But, I mean, not butt, no butt. I have a butt, but we don't need another butt. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Steps Basic, and welcome back to my community show. See, I told you. You didn't believe me, but I told you I was going to be doing the different musical styles every week now, and you're going to be like, stop it, and I'm going to be like, okay. Anyway, so today's topic is one that kind of interests me, but first of all, let me get the addressing important stuff out of the way first. Yes, you probably noticed I'm back up to my my 2 videos a day, every weekday, with the exception of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You know, you probably noticed that, but yes, that means that Potato Nana is back in school. So now I have more time in the day to do my work. And I'm going to continue that. Hopefully I'm going to be able to keep that up, except for, of course, weeks when I get behind schedule again, because, you know, I got my Tim project that I work on every month, and I get a few other things I work on every month, and I've recently started making more episodes on videos for my main channel, which has officially rebranded, is now Phil's Family rather than Steps, and that I'm very proud of. Anyway, as such, I may find myself having less time to actually make a lot of videos over here. But I'm going to keep doing what I can until quality begins to suffer. And if quality suffers, then I'm going to go back to just 1 video a day. All those announcements out of the way, shuffle them over. So, today, now this is an interesting topic that I thought about. And it really applies to video games in that, in the creator side as well as in the player side, which is kind of an interesting little subject that I like. World building. Now, that doesn't sound very, I don't know, player oriented, but players are the ones who really benefit from a well-constructed world. Now, worlds built in video games are determined heavily by the genre of the game and, of course, the play style of the game, i.e. shooter, RPG, etc. And I find it that in a lot of games, they successfully construct the world in an appropriate fashion, which is good. I mean, they got a lot of professionals out there working on the worlds and whatnot, and story and setting and everything, but, you know, they do a good job. But what I want to talk about mostly is what goes into making the world. Now, of course, like I said, it's influenced by the genre and the type of game you're playing. Like in a horror game, you're gonna expect like dimmer lights and noises that'll just and give you the chills and whatnot, darkness and corridors and flickers and of course the ominous monster in the distance that you can't see. And I noticed when I was playing friggin' that game I played today, or not today, this week. Deadlight, they really established the world really well. That's what actually made me think about this, was that game.
Oh, I don't like the looks of that.
Because I mean, it's a 2D, 3D platformer type of game, but they really played well with the foreground and the background. I mean, you drop into the sewers and you see the head run by. I'm like, ooh. And that's the sort of thing you like to see in horror games. Things that'll give you a second to stop and like, ooh, you get the chills run up your spine. You're like, oh yes, yes, sexy. Anyway, but you won't. Those type of elements won't work well in a comedy. Now, comedy, you expect bright colors, lots of happy music, do 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 do, and you know, that sort of thing. Because when you get into a comedy, you don't expect the horror stuff. But like going back to horror genre and whatnot, when you're looking at worlds built in horror, I find it interesting when people break from the usual mold in world building. Like I was talking about Deadlight, where they were dark and they were dreary and those sewers and they had the horror aspect of the creature running across the screen that you couldn't even see and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, that's neat. But I mean, I haven't played this game, so I'm only speaking from what I've seen. But there was this game called Colot that is very bright colors. It's white. I mean, technically the brightest color you can get, right? Except of course it's not a color; it's the absence of all, or the presence of all color. But anyway, so that's semantics. But I mean, it's the brightest thing you got. The whole area around you is surrounded by bright light, bright white, not bright light. And even into the darker areas, from what I've seen, of course, you have brighter colors. You know, orange phantasms and whatnot. I'm like, oh, this is neat. Doesn't necessarily break it when you use stuff like that. And this is sort of interesting little aspect. If you build your world right, then even going against the norms will still come through pretty well. World breaking. Now that one's a big pet peeve of mine. It's an immersion problem, because if you're playing a game and you got a nice, deep, well-built world, and then suddenly something just pulls you out of it, it's just very distracting. And playing a video game is different from any other sort of media, in that if you're reading a book or watching a movie, that world is built and it's going to play out on its own. In a video game, it's hard to completely avoid world and immersion breaking situations. Like, for instance, RPGs, you have to open up your menus, you enter into battle conflicts, you get the swirl. I mean, these are the old ones. A lot of the newer RPGs kind of avoid the whole swirl into the new battle type of deal, which is cool, and I kind of like that, but at the same time, it kind of goes against the grain of an RPG, you know, random encounter idea. It's been done well, though. You know, you can avoid the whole swirl into a battle thing and still have the random encounter aspect. Like in Final Fantasy 15, the monsters just kind of magically appear out of the ground, and you're like, oh, look, I can kill you. But on occasions, you can still see them running around in the wild, and that's pretty neat. 12 was different. Final Fantasy 12 was different because they literally had the set amount of monsters, and all you had to do was run up to them to initiate the combat, and that's pretty cool. And it helped to keep the immersion, but a lot of, especially the older ones, world breaking, immersion breaking was kind of a tricky thing to avoid with battle systems and whatnot. Now, you can say that like all the action adventure games, they avoid that by not initiating combat, stuff like that, without essentially just seamlessly throwing bad guys at you. And you're like, okay, I got this, yay. But, I mean, even in like Just Cause, there are things that break the immersion. You're playing through this ridiculous over-the-top adventure game where you get to blow up stuff, and then all of a sudden you have to go into your menu, you have to put in your little skill points and upgrade your equipment, and you have to go through your little map, like where do I need to go next, and stuff like that. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, but not necessarily a bad thing in all cases, especially when it's well executed, because you can get a good transition into what you want without destroying the world. Like Outlast 2, that's a good example. Horror game. Very, very spooky, very dark, atmospheric. By the way, I'm going to finish that game eventually, I promise. Very dark, very atmospheric, and all of the information that you gather with your camera. There's no going into the menu, and like your healing item, you just look down, you got your bandages over here, you got your batteries over here, and you can check and see how much you got left. And I'm like, that's cool. They got rid of the whole idea in the first one where you had the battery indicator up here and the number of batteries you have left, and you can just look down now. And yeah, that's pretty cool. I still hate the fact that you can't fight, because that really pulls me out of the Outlast worlds. I mean, technically you can, you get the whole jiggle thing, like, oh, this guy grabbed you, fight your way out. Stick my mouse at you. But, you know, I just feel like in that sort of situation, anyone's going to fight. Even Miles Upshur, investigative reporter. Things like that can really break the world for me. Because nobody would go into a situation like that without at least some sort of a will to live. But anyway, that's about all I really have to say about that. I hope I was informative as I feel like I was, but sometimes I'm not. That was mostly, like I said, from a writer's perspective and a player's perspective. So maybe a game creator would have more of a, what do you call it? More of a good perspective on it, because as I have never created a video game before, I can't really say how well it works. I have seen some good examples of how you can avoid world breaking and good examples of world building. Like, oh my god, I haven't played it yet, so no spoilers, but I watched like a couple of episodes or a couple of clips of Senua's Sacrifice. That world was built spectacularly. Listening to the whispers just even got me going a little shivery. And I'm like, ooh. Of course, I do have a slight brain problem, but we're not going to talk about that because we're happy here. Yay, happy. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please go and perk that like button for me. If you'd like to, you can comment down below. You can maybe mention some good examples of good worlds I would like to hear about. Like I said, I like the seamless transitions. They make it so much more immersive. That's another good thing. If you want to comment on some serious world breaking, like immersion breaking situations, oh god. Mass Effect Andromeda really hit me with one. I was like, oh god. It's like I'm sitting there playing this game, I'm just enjoying it, out of nowhere, just whoosh. That is not what a real person would do. It really isn't. Anyway, enough about that. Tune in next time for who knows what, where I get to talk in front of a camera for about 10 to 15 minutes. And until then...